The 1970s were a time when every new product felt like a promise of something magical. But reality didn't always live up to the hype. That miracle hairstyle ended up looking like a confused mushroom. Jumpsuits turned bathroom trips into a nightmare. And those trendy wooden sandals had you crying with every painful step. Today, let's take a look back at the buzzworthy products that had Americans excited, only to leave them totally disappointed. The Dorothy Hamill cut. Remember the image of Dorothy Hamill, the figure skater who captivated the world with her radiant smile, skillful spins, and perfect wedge haircut, which helped her win an Olympic gold medal? Her haircut instantly became a fashion icon of the 70s, and immediately girls across America flocked to salons with a single request: "Give me the Dorothy!" The promise was that you would look as gorgeous and confident as an Olympic athlete, with hair full of volume and vitality. What about reality? Oh, it really worked on Dorothy Hamill, but she was a professional athlete with a whole team of beauty experts and cheekbones sharp enough to tear through disco fog. On an average teenager, the result was wildly different. This cute haircut needed constant maintenance, the right head shape, and a hairdryer that could act like a jet engine. You had to spend hours drying and styling it so every strand curled inward correctly. And oh my, if your hair decided to flip out instead of curling in, you'd look like a confused mushroom until it grew out. Many experienced feeling awkward, painful, and ridiculous when this haircut simply didn't suit them. Hairstylists made a fortune that year, and so did hat companies, as many girls had to wear hats to cover up the disaster on their heads. Jumpsuits. Jumpsuits were once the dream of every 70s fashionista. Just pull a zipper and boom, you were stylish. They promised a neat, elegant look, as if you had your life perfectly together. It was an illusion of ultimate convenience and style. But that illusion shattered the moment you needed to use the restroom. Going to the restroom in a jumpsuit was like trying to escape a locked room in an escape room game. You'd find yourself half naked in a public restroom, struggling with zippers and buttons while trying not to touch anything around you. And if you were tall, forget about it. Most jumpsuits left you permanently wedgied and exposed cold wrists. They were the apparel version of a reliable fall, and many of us tumbled. Despite looking sleek, wearing them was like wearing a plastic bag. You'd sweat just by looking at one. Hey, and if you dared to dance in a jumpsuit under disco lights, you were basically wearing a portable slow cooker. They weren't breathable, they didn't move, and neither could you. Yet we wore them, because in the 70s, looking stylish meant feeling hot. Literally. Dr. Scholl's sandals. You saw them in 17 magazine, heard them clacking down school hallways, and you pestered your mom until she gave in. Dr. Scholl's wooden sandals looked like a dream. Natural leather, real wooden soles, and that health-conscious vibe as if you were protecting your arches. The promise was that they would feel comfortable and be good for your health. However, the truth was completely opposite to the advertisements. If you stepped on the wrong edge, pain would shoot straight up your spine. Getting hit in the ankle was a given. And don't ask me about walking fast. You needed plier-like toes just to keep them on your feet. Some called them orthopedic sandals, some called them stylish, but most of us called them an accident waiting to happen. They were not only painful, but also posed a risk of injury at any time. Sun In hair lightener. Oh, that radiant summer look. That's what Sun In promised. Just hearing the name brings a waft of lemon and peroxide. The product's promise: create golden, sun-kissed highlights without damage. It sounded like magic. A savior for hair? Who wouldn't want shiny, smooth hair without having to go to an expensive salon? Especially during the summer months when we all wanted a fresh, radiant look. But chemistry had other plans, especially if you had brown, red, or any hair color that wasn't California blonde. Sun In turned the locks of a nation of teenagers orange, looking as if they'd been attacked by an orange juicer. Hair would become brittle like rust and full of regret. The smell alone, half lemon cleaner, half peroxide, should have been the first warning sign. But hey, we chased the sun in a bottle. Unfortunately, the bottle forgot to mention it only worked well if you lived in Malibu. Brush rollers. Before flat irons, before ceramic curling irons, there were brush rollers, medieval relics that teenage girls voluntarily slept in. Why? Because nothing says good morning like a face full of plastic piercing through your pillow. You rolled them tight, pinned them with sharp metal clips, and somehow expected to wake up looking like Farrah Fawcett. Did it deliver such greatness? A scalp full of regret and curls that either did nothing or made you look like you'd been attacked by a sheepdog. Add a sleeping cap, and you looked like you were going to bed in the Waltons. But, oh well, beauty is pain, right? It was a true beauty-sleep torture chamber that countless girls endured for the desire of perfect hair. Prell shampoo. Did you know that using natural products, especially for hair, is a popular trend? In the 70s, Prell was truly a time bomb for hair, even directly affecting the scalp. That almost radiantly bright green tube, when squeezed out, looked like slime, smelled of artificial freshness, and produced so much lather you could use it to wash a scooter. It promised to give hair volume and shine. And the truth was, hair got so clean your scalp stopped producing oil. Just one wash with Prell, and you'd be stripped of every trace of life. Hair would become dry, static for days, and have the brittle feeling of failure. Sure, the bottle looked nice on the bathroom shelf, but your hair needed therapy after one rinse. Long-term use of this shampoo resulting in a squeaky clean feeling was not good for hair. Do you still remember Prell's distinctive scent, or the dry feeling after shampooing? Share your memories in the comments. QT Quick Tanner. You wanted a quick tan with QT, a double quick tan? QT stood for Quick Tan, but it should have stood for Questionable Tint. This lotion promised a healthy tan without sun damage, but when used it resulted in splotchy orange streaks and orange palms. Oh, and the smell! Like chemical pancake syrup that lingered for days. Apply too little, you'd look like you missed spots. Apply too much, you'd look like you just rolled in BBQ sauce. And once it was on, it stayed on. No amount of scrubbing could remove it from your knees or elbows. If you ever used QT, it was surely a valuable lesson in never trying to find shortcuts to perfect skin. Ayds Diet Candy. Oh no, what's wrong? Did I gain so much weight? My diet isn't working. That was the cry of many in the 70s, and then they turned to Ayds Diet Candy. Yes, it was called Ayds, and yes, it was a diet candy. These chocolate-flavored lozenges came in luxurious boxes and promised to curb your appetite with a mysterious ingredient that sounded very scientific. You were instructed to take one before meals with a cup of hot water, and then somehow you'd completely forget about dinner. In reality, they tasted like old Tootsie Rolls dipped in perfume. And if you managed to swallow one, you might be rewarded with a slightly smaller dinner, or perhaps you just lost your appetite because of its terrible taste. And of course, this unfortunate name did not age well when the AIDS epidemic broke out in the 1980s. From a product hoped to be a miracle candy, it quickly became an offensive name and was soon removed from the market. Shag carpets. Shag carpets were once the jewel of any living room in the 70s. The longer the pile, the trendier the room. They came in all colors from avocado to rust, and almost invited you to walk barefoot on them. But as anyone who owned shag carpet knew, it was a trap. Debris disappeared forever in it, as did jewelry, marbles, and your dignity when the vacuum cleaner got stuck. Shag carpets were like living with a giant pet. They held smells, dust, and memories you never wanted. And good luck finding the remote if it fell in there. You'd need a search party and a metal detector. Cleaning them was a nightmare, and they became a hiding place for all sorts of unwanted things, from dirt to odors. Polyester leisure suits. Polyester leisure suits. Sounds like the perfect attire for the lively parties of the 70s. The promise of owning this outfit was to have it all. Oh, that sleek, striking look. From the colors to the bold plaid patterns, we all wanted to own one to express our personality. And if you dared to dance in one of these under-disco lights, you were no different from wearing a jumpsuit and feeling like you were in a slow cooker. Some were pale blue, some burnt orange, all shiny enough to reflect a disco ball and thick enough to block a light breeze. They weren't breathable, they didn't move, and neither could you. Yet we wore them because in the 70s, looking stylish meant feeling hot, literally. Young people at that time were willing to endure the inconvenience of polyester suits just to look fashionable and individualistic. Looking back at fashion trends like jumpsuits or polyester suits, what do you think was the biggest fashion disaster of the 70s you ever witnessed or experienced? Bell Picture Phone. In the 1960s, Bell Telephone, which we know today as AT&T, dreamed big about the future of communication. At the 1964 World's Fair, they introduced a bold new idea, the Model 1 picture phone. It was a prototype that allowed you to see the person you were talking to, a concept that seemed like science fiction at the time. A few of these phones were actually in use that decade, giving people a glimpse of what video calling might look like in the future. By 1970, Bell had launched the first commercial version of the picture phone. But here's the problem, it came with an exorbitant price tag. You had to pay $160 per month, and that wasn't including per-minute call charges. Adjusted for inflation, that's over $1,200 per month today, even if you never made a call. Plus, it was only designed for one-on-one conversations, so no group calls or conferences. They tried again, releasing Model 2 and even targeting businesses in the 80s. In 1992, they introduced the Videophone 2000 for home use, but none of these versions caught on. Ironically, in 2019, two Model 2s sold at auction for over $7,500. A win at last, just 50 years too late. This was an idea ahead of its time, but too expensive and limited, making it inaccessible to the mass market. Betamax videotape system. When Sony launched Betamax in 1975, they seemed to have a winning product on their hands. It was one of the first home video formats, and it offered impressive picture and sound resolution, far superior to anything people had seen before. In fact, the quality was so good that television stations and film production companies continued to use Betamax tapes for professional work until the 2000s. But no matter how great the technology, Sony made a fatal mistake. They kept Betamax to themselves. Sony refused to license the Betamax format to other electronics companies. That meant fewer Betamax manufacturers and fewer movie titles released in that format. Just a year later, in 1976, JVC introduced VHS tape. Although the quality wasn't as sharp, JVC was more flexible. They licensed VHS to any company that wanted to participate. Suddenly, there were more players, more tapes, and more options for consumers. As a result, Betamax's dominance vanished almost overnight. Its market share in the home video market dropped from 100% in 1975 to just 10% in 1988. Although it lasted a few more years, the outcome was clear. Betamax lost the format war, not because it wasn't better, but because it wasn't open. Gerber Singles, baby food for adults. In 1974, Gerber, famous for nourishing generations of children, decided it was time to grow up in a way. The company came up with an idea they thought was groundbreaking: baby food for adults. They called it Gerber Singles, and the concept targeted young single people living alone who might not want to cook. The idea was convenience: ready-to-eat, pre-packaged, pre-processed meals in small glass jars, like baby food but for adults. The only problem was no one wanted it. The dishes were pureed meat and vegetables, with the same mushy texture as baby food, but now offered to adults who certainly had many other meal options. Imagine opening a jar of pureed beef or mashed beans for dinner. Not appealing at all. People were confused, a bit disgusted, and not interested in trading their TV dinners or sandwiches for something that looked like it belonged in a high chair. Gerber completely misunderstood the market. Adults didn't want convenience in that form. They wanted something with flavor, texture, and, yes, dignity. Gerber Singles failed miserably and quickly disappeared from shelves. Downey Flake toaster eggs. In 1972, Downey Flake, a company known for frozen breakfast foods, decided to try reinventing breakfast. Building on the success of quick and convenient foods like Pop-Tarts and toaster waffles, they introduced toaster eggs. The idea was a frozen egg patty that could be popped into a toaster and ready to eat in minutes. Sounds convenient, right? Well, in theory perhaps, but in reality these things looked more like hockey pucks than food. Round, thick, and oddly dense, they were not appealing at all. Although the concept of a hot, quick breakfast had merit, toaster eggs simply didn't deliver on taste, texture, or appearance. People were already wary of pre-cooked eggs, and putting them in a toaster only made things stranger. Consumers were unimpressed, and sales quickly plummeted. By 1975, just 3 years after their launch, toaster eggs were pulled from grocery shelves, disappearing as quickly as they appeared. Polaroid Polavision. Polaroid was once the king of instant photography. Their cameras, like the SX70 and One Step, were ubiquitous in the 70s, shooting, developing, and printing photos right in your hand. Building on that success, Polaroid took a bold leap into the world of home movies. In 1977, they introduced the Polavision system, hoping to compete with Kodak, who dominated the market with its Super 8 film. Polavision was quite innovative at the time. It used a unique film cartridge that looked like a mini video cassette. After shooting, you could develop the footage in minutes using a special tabletop viewer. You could even remove the film and play it on a standard Super 8 projector, which was a clever touch. But despite the interesting technology, the system failed. Why? First, the picture quality was weak. You had to shoot in super bright light, otherwise the results would look dark and blurry. Colors were pale and there was no sound recording. This was a major deal breaker. Sales never took off, and by 1979 Polaroid discontinued production. Which 70s tech product disappointed you the most, or do you think was ahead of its time but failed miserably? Comment and share your thoughts. Sansui quadrophonic sound. In the early 1970s, home audio was a big deal. Most people were still using basic two-speaker systems, but Sansui had a vision for something more immersive, something that could bring music to life from every direction. That was the birth of the Sansui quadrophonic sound system, launched in 1972. This 4-channel audio system promised to revolutionize home music listening by delivering sound from the front, back, left, and right. It was an entirely new experience compared to traditional stereo sound. At $200 at the time, the system wasn't cheap, but it was groundbreaking. Sansui wasn't alone for long. Other audio companies joined in, offering their own quadrophonic setups, some even coming with joystick controls that allowed users to manipulate sound around the room for a completely customized listening experience. Big-name artists loved it too. Aerosmith, Eric Clapton, the Eagles, and others released special albums mixed specifically for 4-channel playback. But while the technology was interesting, average consumers were not ready to upgrade their entire system just for 2 additional speakers. Adoption was slow, and by 1978, the quadrophonic dream quietly faded. The music industry then quickly moved on to digital recording. Today, working Sansui quadrophonic receivers can still fetch around $200, a nostalgic piece of audio history. Clairol yogurt shampoo. In the late 1970s, natural ingredients were a big trend. People wanted cleaner, healthier lifestyles, and that trend spilled over into beauty products. Suddenly, products with honey, lemon, aloe vera, and herbal extracts were everywhere. So, Clairol decided to join in with something a little more creamy. In 1979, they launched yogurt shampoo, based on the idea that if yogurt was good for the body, it must be good for hair too. The product packaging leaned into the natural style. Soft colors, images of yogurt, and wording that made it sound more like a snack than a shampoo. And that's where things went wrong. Consumers were confused, really confused. Some thought it was real yogurt, others didn't know whether to apply it to their hair or put it in a bowl with fruit. Believe it or not, there were even reports of people trying to eat it. Although Clairol had good intentions, yogurt shampoo was a marketing flop. LaserDisc. Long before DVDs took over living rooms, there was LaserDisc, a large, shiny disc that looked like a giant CD. First introduced in 1978, it was a bold step in home entertainment. It delivered sharper video and clearer audio than the bulky VHS tapes most people were using at the time. It seemed like the future of movie watching had finally arrived. But despite its technical advantages, LaserDisc came with some major limitations. First, you couldn't record on it. That was a big deal at the time because VHS tapes allowed you to easily record shows from TV. LaserDisc was for playback only with no flexibility, and they weren't cheap either. Players and the discs themselves cost much more than VHS, which made them hard to justify for the average consumer. The format persisted through the 80s and even tried to make a comeback in the 90s. Film enthusiasts loved them for their quality and early access to directors' commentaries and special features. But once DVDs arrived with better quality, lower prices, and recording options, the game was over. Swing bike. In 1975, a new, wild bicycle hit the streets. The swing bike. Designed and patented by Ralph Belden just a year prior, this was no ordinary bicycle. What made it stand out was that it had two steering points. One at the front like a regular bike and a second one at the back right under the seat. That meant you could steer both wheels independently, creating crazy swiveling movements that no standard bike could. The swing bike was primarily for show, not function. It wasn't built for commuting or long distances. This was a performance bike meant to grab attention and turn heads. Riders could weave in S-shapes or even keep one wheel on the sidewalk and the other on the road, performing moves that looked like a circus act. But despite looking cool, it was not easy to control. The dual steering system made the bike unstable for beginners, and many people fell. Its unpredictability and risk of injury prevented widespread public adoption. After a few years on the market, the swing bike was discontinued in 1978. Sauna hot pants. Hot pants were already a hot trend in the 1970s, but someone had the brilliant idea to take it to the next level and make them inflatable. That was the birth of Sauna hot pants, a strange combination of fashion and wishful thinking. These inflatable puffy shorts promised a miracle, to eliminate stubborn excess fat without effort. No dieting, no exercise, just sit back and relax on your favorite armchair, perhaps munching on a few cookies, and let the magic happen. The theory was that by retaining heat and making you sweat, these pants would target problem areas like hips, thighs, and abdomen. You would wear them around the house while watching TV and were supposedly going to start shrinking in just a few days. It sounded too good to be true, and it absolutely was. Although many companies joined in and released their own versions, they all failed miserably. People quickly realized that sweating a lot did not equate to real fat loss, and wearing inflatable pants around the house was neither comfortable nor effective. World Football League. In 1974, a bold new contender stepped onto the field to challenge the NFL, the World Football League, WFL. With big dreams and even bigger promises, the WFL aimed to create an international football empire that could compete with and even replace the National Football League. But as it turned out, ambition doesn't always equate to success. The league started with 13 teams spread across the United States, including one in far-off Honolulu, Hawaii. The name World Football League sounded global, but in reality it never expanded beyond U.S. borders. Despite a flashy start, things quickly fell apart. Attendance was low, money ran out, and many players were never paid on time. Even star athletes who had been lured away from the NFL with promises of big contracts were stuck in the financial mess. The WFL barely completed its first season in 1974. Its second season in 1975 was cut short when the league folded midway through. In less than 2 years, the dream of global football dominance collapsed. Twist and tone. The 1970s had no shortage of peculiar weight loss inventions, and one of the most memorable was the twist and tone. This device promised to help you lose weight and tone your waist, all while having fun. Unlike traditional exercises, this one didn't involve running, lifting weights, or breaking a sweat. No, all you had to do was stand on it and twist from side to side. Easy, portable, and supposedly effective. The device looked suspiciously like a kitchen Lazy Susan, just a round disc that rotated in place. You could use it at home, at the office, even while watching TV. Just a few minutes a day and your belly fat would start melting away. At least so they claimed. It was marketed as a miracle solution for people who hated real exercise. But here's the truth. It didn't work. Sure, it might get you moving a little, but it wasn't going to replace cardio or strength training anytime soon. Plus, people felt pretty silly using it, twisting their hips in the middle of the living room as if they were stuck in a bad dance. Although versions of the twist and tone existed since the 60s, none of them were truly successful. Smell-Vision revival. The idea of smell-vision always sounded like something out of a sci-fi movie. Why just watch a movie when you could smell it too? Although the original concept emerged in the 1960s, the 1970s saw a few strange attempts to bring it back. The goal was to create a fully immersive cinematic experience by pumping scents into theaters or even homes to match what was happening on screen. Think of the smell of popcorn during a concession stand scene or the scent of sea breeze during a beach scene. Sounds fun, right? Not quite. In reality, the technology was cumbersome and unreliable. Scents often arrived too early, too late, or not at all. Worse, once scents were released, they lingered, and not in a good way. Imagine watching a romantic love scene while the room still smelled of chili dogs from 2 scenes earlier. Audiences were more distracted than entertained, and theater owners weren't happy about installing extra equipment that didn't even work well. Smell-vision quietly faded away by the late 70s. It turned out people preferred to experience stories with their eyes and ears rather than their noses. 8-track tape cleaning kits, the empty promise of improved sound. In the 1970s, 8-track tapes were very popular. Whether you were driving or listening at home, chances are you had a bulky stack of tapes and a matching player. With all that use, companies saw a golden opportunity and rushed to sell 8-track tape cleaning kits. These small packages contained brushes, sponges, spray bottles, and promises of better sound quality and longer tape life. The pitch was simple. Keep your tapes clean and they'll last longer. But the reality was these kits rarely worked as advertised. Some brushes were too abrasive, the sprays too sticky, and the sponges often did more harm than good. In many cases, the cleaners left residue or scratched the delicate parts of the tape, actually accelerating wear and tear instead of preventing it. It didn't take long for word to spread. People realized these kits were mostly gimmicks, and many simply stopped using them altogether. By the late 70s and early 80s, compact cassettes began to take over, and demand for 8-track accessories quickly dwindled. Was any product on today's list ever in your home? Or did it leave an unforgettable impression? Share your story in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next journeys into history, nostalgia, and the strange things that once made up an era. Thank you for joining us on this nostalgic journey. See you in the next video.